Yugi boy.
What is up, guys? This is Linthio coming out to the discussion today about the subject of creativity in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how the debate is going on, and it's always going on, and the fact is creativity dead, or is it still very much a thing of the game? So creativity, first off, if we actually just talk about the word, creativity is such a subjective word that has different connotations to different people. One person who is playing in the meta, for example, might tech in one card and call that creativity, whereas other people on the other side of the spectrum would say, like, if you pilot a completely new and different deck, or you run it in a completely different way, then that is creativity. It's very difficult to say what is the actual definition of creativity in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the problem with it is that there are always going to be two different aspects of the game. There's the competitive scene and the non-competitive scene, aka the casual scene. You will see more what you may call creative decks in the non-casual scene, mainly because people might want to have a bit of a laugh with a deck, or it might be a younger player or someone who doesn't really like the competitive scene as such, and they don't really want to do that. Whereas with the competitive scene, you see a lot of the same decks, so on and so forth, all the time, simply because they are technically, quote-unquote, the best decks of the format, and they are just sometimes the easiest to run. If you take like Satellar Knights, for example, they're a pretty simple deck to kind of pilot. And I'm not knocking Satellar Knights, because obviously there is certain elements of thinking about it. Every deck has some form of thinking, but it's one of the easier decks to pilot, and I played Satellar Knights for a good half a year and took it to events, and I found it pretty simple, and that's essentially why I sold the deck off, because I was pretty bored of it, if I'm completely honest. Creativity is something that I love in this game, and the fundamental basic aspect of the game, for me, is how you creatively build your deck, and not just kind of copy it. Net decking is something that kind of kills creativity, but that is going to be the same thing in every single card game, every single game in the world, because that's just basically how it is. People will look for a quick and easy route to get to plan A to plan B, and plan B is going to be, winning. And that's kind of what the game is all about for a good majority of the people. The subject of this all is, what is creativity and is it dead? For me, it's about having an open mind when approaching a certain deck. And if you just say, I'm just going to copy this Jeff Jones deck list, or I'm just going to copy this Pat Hoban deck list, and then run with it, you're not really being very creative, are you? You're just basically autopiloting someone else's deck. Now, Jeff Jones is pretty good at being quite creative in the game. He took Yang Zings the other day to Regional and went X2, I think it was. He piloted the very famous Grand Soil Psychics a couple of years ago, and that is kind of very creative. Bringing a new deck to the game that people really haven't seen all that much, and maybe some people are aware of it, of course, because there's always going to be a deck people are aware of, but not really seeing it on the competitive scene is going to be a big shock and be called creative. But if everyone then picked up Grand Soil Psychics and then made it into a meta deck, is it still creative? I think that's where the interesting thing lies. If someone brings a deck to the format, then everyone plays it, and then 2 months down the line, people are still playing it. Is it still creativity? Or is it now become a boring helmet / boring autopilot / whatever deck? That is the interesting thing that I want to know what people think down in the comment section below, because that is a very subjective thing and something quite interesting that you can maybe discuss on. Personally, I love the creativity aspect of this game, and I love testing out different decks, different techs, and so on and so forth, because it's just a lot more fun. That's where I get my main enjoyment from this game. And while people might say, there's a reason why these creative decks on in the game, because they can't stand up to the meta decks. Well, kind of like, say, 7 to 8 times out of 10 that's true, because of just the power creep and all this such, and if you do want to kind of mix loads of things together, then it's a little bit different. One thing that's quite interesting that happened was the Performer Mages that came into the game just from the last set. Everyone started putting them in Shadows and Necros and all this stuff and started mixing them in. Is that creativity? Or is it because now everyone's done it and it's now topped loads of places, is now that not creative at all? So it's always a very interesting thing to discuss, and I think that it's one that, as I said, is very open to someone's personal opinion and their kind of subjective view on the word creativity and how they view it in the game. So this is going to be a very interesting one. Make sure you definitely leave a comment in the section below, because I want to know what everyone thinks, because this has the potential to be a very interesting topic to discuss. As I said, let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe, and I shall catch you guys later.